dominating the headlines. Rishi Sunak appears to be willing to lose Lee Anderson.
Well, I've been very clear that what Lee said was wrong, it was unacceptable, and that's why we suspended the whip. And it's important that everybody, but particularly elected politicians, are careful with their words and do not inflame tensions.
Well, in our exclusive interview last night with Lee, he wasn't too happy with his treatment from Rishi Sunak and the Tories.
I think the party could have given me a little bit more backing, if I'm honest.
And will you be a candidate for the Tory party in the next election?
Well, that's not up to me. That's out of my hands at the moment, Chopper. But I will be standing at the next election.
Today, Gbnews revealed this exclusive information on where Lee's loyalties may lie in the future.
He now revealed that Lee Anderson met with Richard Tice, the leader of the Reform UK party, on Sunday, lunchtime. He was spotted there at a Holiday Inn at Junction 28 of the M1. We don't know what they discussed, but the timing is very telling, I think, 24 hours after he lost the whip.
Right, so, I mean, I suppose the big question really is whether or not Rishi Sunak should try to keep Lee Anderson. Should he come grovelling to him and accept him back? Joining me to discuss this is Tory MP Philip Davies and former Conservative MEP from 2004 to 2019 is Sajjad Karim. Both of them joining me. Thank you very much. Sajjad, I'll start with you if that's OK. So, look, Lee Anderson could defect to the Reform Party. Should he have lost the Tory whip in the first place? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think the matter was dealt with by the Whip's office in an appropriate manner. They clearly, first of all, viewed what Lee Anderson had actually stated, and then having viewed it, took the steps that were necessary in the circumstances. So I certainly see the case for that having happened. What I'm sorry about is the fact that Lee Anderson has chosen to dig his heels in at this particular point. I would much rather he actually took a progressive attitude and actually examined his actions in the way they are objectively looked at, and then possibly reviewed the position at that stage.
Philip, your view on this? I mean, it does look, there's quite a good chance, I think, that you're going to lose Lee Anderson to Reform.
Well, I don't think that follows. I mean, I don't think Lee Anderson should have lost the whip. I think it was an overreaction. I think Lee said, basically, I expressed myself clumsily, and I think that we should have accepted that and moved on, and we probably wouldn't be discussing it 4 days later or whatever it might be if that had been the case. But just because Richard Tice has met with Lee Anderson, I don't think we should take it as read, therefore, that Lee Anderson's definitely going to be defecting to Reform. I mean, I've met Richard Tice quite a few times. He's been round to my house, I've been round to his. It doesn't mean to say that I'm going to be join the Reform Party. So I don't think we should put two and two together and come up with 23. I think we should...
Philip, I agree with a lot of what you say, but he met him apparently at a Holiday Inn at a motorway service station not long after he lost the whip. I mean, come on. But
that doesn't mean it doesn't follow, therefore, that he's going to defect. What we should be doing is Lee's actually written an article for the Daily Express tomorrow, which is up online already, which I've read. It seems to be a perfectly. I've had a quick scan of it. From what I read, it seems to be perfectly reasonable, and I hope that on the back of that, where Lee in effect clarifies what he was trying to say the first time round, and obviously it's a lot easier to do that when you write an article than when you're speaking off the cuff. I hope we can find a way that he can have the Conservative whip back. And, you know, I think Lee would accept that the Conservative Party's been good to him up until this weekend, perhaps, and hopefully we can restore the relationship that we had before then.
All right, Sajjad, I'll go to you to respond to that, and also just ask, look, politically speaking, from within the Conservative Party, you know, if Lee Anderson is about to defect, if he then potentially takes a lot of the red wall with him or a lot of the grassroots of the Tory party, you know, does he really have to apologise in order to come back, or can he just clarify?
Well, I really don't see that scenario unfolding that you've just described, that Lee Anderson has that sort of influence that he can take all of the red wall with him, or certainly that size of the electorate. I grew up in a northern working class community in Lancashire, so I know these communities very well indeed, and the way that they have been depicted as somehow being represented by this sort of political viewpoint across the board, all of them, I find actually extremely objectionable. These working class communities are very proud communities. They are very open-minded communities. They are very tolerant communities. This has been my experience of growing up in that community as a member of that community. So I just don't recognise these depictions at all.
All right.
Now, so far as Lee Anderson is concerned, I think one of the things that the party ought to do is to offer Lee an opportunity to actually come and see the other side of the argument. And actually, there is a variety of ways in which a progressive agenda can be presented to Lee Anderson. And if he is given that opportunity and he still refuses to take it, well, that's his choice. But I would much rather he took that choice and then he and the party could move forward, because ultimately we have a big electorate right across the country that will actually be supportive of Lee's position and Lee's views.
OK, Philip, I mean, is it then a problem? If Lee goes, it's just one man. It's one man who's got a few supporters, and it doesn't really matter.
No, I didn't say that.
No, I know.
I didn't say that, Patrick.
No, I know. I'm asking the question to Philip.
Well, of course, it would matter if Lee left. He's a very valued colleague, and he's not going to apologise. Of course he's not going to apologise. I mean, everywhere he goes, he has garlands wrapped around his neck, and he's being treated like a national hero. He's loving every minute of it. So he's certainly not going to... Why would he apologise when he's being treated like that? That's not going to happen. But we need to find a way, and I think the article he's written for the Express is a perfectly good way to actually say, well, look, here he's clarified the point he was trying to make in the first place. It's a perfectly reasonable point. Saj might not agree with it. We don't all have to agree with him to be a member of the Conservative Party, but the point of view that Lee expressed in the Express article tomorrow seems to be a perfectly legitimate view to hold, whether you're in the Conservative Party or not. And so I hope that on that basis we can all move forward, draw a line under it and move on together, all part of the same party, and actually doing what we should be doing, which is highlighting what a disaster Keir Starmer and the Labour Party would be for this country, because if we're not, we're going to be in danger of sleepwalking into a complete nightmare while we argue the toss about whether Lee Anderson should have used this particular word or not.
Yeah, look, this article went live since I've literally been sat in the studio, so I am just getting first sight of this now. As far as I can gather, the headline is Lee Anderson warns Rishi Sunak he speaks for Tory voters, and he blasts, "I'm not a racist." I mean, he's sticking to his guns, right? He's not going to move, Sajjad, is he? So, I mean, it's going to have to be Rishi Sunak who comes cap in hand to him, otherwise it's nothing.
Well, the reality is this, that as we move into the general election cycle, I do not see a position emerging whereby if the leader of the Conservative Party, and if it still happens to be Rishi Sunak at that time, if that particular leader takes the view that actually we are going to fight this election, not on policies, but on these sort of culture wars agendas, then I'm afraid there's going to be very little appetite in the country at large for that sort of campaign.
Right.
What we need to see is a Conservative Party, once again, hungry for government, taking the case to the country, and a very vigorous campaign from the opposition, because that is what will be truly healthy for our democracy. And we do need to do a huge amount of repair work based upon the damage that has been done over these past few years.
I actually think, Patrick, that Lee has moved quite a bit in this article tomorrow. It might say he's not backing down and all the rest of it, but actually he doesn't repeat the thing about Islamist extremists being Sadiq Khan's mates, which was the bit that caused all the uproar in the first place. He doesn't repeat that, and he's quite strikingly doesn't repeat that. So I think Lee, behind all of the sort of headlines, has actually moved to deal with the issues that people were concerned about in the first place. And like I say, I was on the back of that. Hopefully we can draw a line under this matter and move on with Lee back as a valued member of the Conservative Party in Parliament.
All right, look, both of you, thank you very much. Really great stuff. We could obviously talk about this all night, but we haven't got the time, unfortunately. That was Philip Davies and Sajjad Karim. Thank you. Now,